I feel that Prime Minister Modi's public image is taking a huge beating in the international media. The behavior of the Prime Minister itself is so unusual that in the context of these countries, you have to behave according to the culture of the country you're visiting. But I don't think the MEA can do much, but you're right, they may come up with new SOPs. They may firmly tell the visiting country that not only will we not have a press conference, but we won't even do a public handshake. This is my feeling that in the future, the problems are going to increase, both abroad also, when he visits more and more liberal countries, and also at home. You're going to have problems because people of the new generation want a more accountable leader. And this meme fest that is going on, which I've been talking about, will help to bring down his reputation, just the way it did for a while for Rahul Gandhi. It's going to happen to him.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. On Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had just walked off stage without taking a single question from journalists, including the one shouted at him by Norwegian commentator MEA-Helly Lyng of Decoding, that's a renowned newspaper of Norway. Now, what followed when MEA Secretary West, Shibi George, and other ministry officials faced the media was one of the more revealing diplomatic exchanges of Modi's 5-nation tour. Now you must be wondering, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the clip which has gone viral all over the social media. People are commenting left, right, and center, and saying that this is a big insult to India because here is a prime minister who cannot take one question. Now, Norway is on the number 1 spot as far as the press freedom index is concerned. And it's a culture over there of the correspondents and the reporters to ask questions, whoever comes from whichever country. And a similar thing happened here. So Prime Minister Modi was standing with his counterpart. He shook hands and then he walks off the stage. And while he's walking off, there's a Norwegian correspondent from this particular paper whose name is MEA-Helly Lyng. She asks a question. Now, I want you to see this clip and then grasp it for yourself as to what this moment was for India, which has just gone viral. I want you to see this clip.
Prime Minister Modi, why don't you take some questions from the freest press in the world? Mr. Modi, do you deserve the trust of our... Du vet, den pressefrihet nummer 1 I verden. Det står vi ved.
So there you saw MEA-Helly Lyng is saying that Prime Minister Modi, why can't you take questions from the freest press in the world? And then the second clip which you saw, the same correspondent tries to chase Prime Minister Modi while he's walking off that building. She goes up to the elevator. When she reaches there, she's huffing and puffing with a mic in her hand, and only in the hope that Prime Minister would reply to her questions. She chases him up to the elevator, but unfortunately, by the time she reaches there, the elevator closes. That's the second clip which I showed to you. So what happens? This was a big insult for India. Look at the way how people are commenting that here is a prime minister of the biggest democracy in the world who doesn't take questions, who cannot ask a single question. So what happened? MEA-Helly went on to the X and she put out these 2 clips with a comment over there, which was so damaging for India. The first tweet which she puts out where she's saying that India is 157th on the press index freedom. And she compares it with Cuba, with Palestine. And she says that here is a country which doesn't take questions. And it is 157th on the press freedom index. And she puts out this clip. So you can imagine the virality, the aggression with which it has gone viral. And people are saying that this was a big insult because Prime Minister Modi couldn't take questions. So obviously, MEA had to jump into the defense. What happened? There was a late night briefing which was planned by MEA Secretary West, Shibi George, along with other MEA officials. And in this late night briefing, this particular correspondent, Helly Lyng, was specially invited that please come and we will take questions. What happened? Now, I want a bigger drama unfolded here. There was a heated exchange between the Indian MEA and the Norwegian press. I'm going to show you the question exactly what Helly Lyng asked. Now, that bring that question out on the graphic plate. This is what her pinpointed question to Shibi George was. I'm wondering, as we strengthen our friendship, why should we trust you? Can you promise that you will try to stop the human rights violations that go on in your country? And also, will the Prime Minister start taking critical questions from the Indian press at some point in the future? Now, this was a pinpointed question, which was a direct question asked to Mr. Shibi George. And then the answer which came was a bigger whataboutery. It was a jalebi. The answer was actually a jalebi. And the correspondent got frustrated. She picked up her mic and the bag and she walked out of that press conference room. Now, I'm going to read out what Shibi George said in his reply to that pinpointed question put out by Helly Lyng. He said, you know how many stories are up here in India. We have a lot of breaking news coming every day. In the evening, at least 200 TV channels in Delhi alone in English, Hindi, and multiple languages. People have no understanding of the scale of India. Indian critics read one or two news reports published by some godforsaken, ignorant NGOs and then come and ask questions. We have a constitution which guarantees the rights of the people. We have equal rights for the women of our country, which is very important. In 1947, we gave the freedom to vote for our women. Many countries, I know, the voting right for women came several decades after India gave that freedom. What is the best example of human rights? The right to change the government, the right to vote. And that is what is happening in India. We are so proud of that. So to a pinpointed direct question, this was the whataboutery in which Shibi George indulged in. And there was again anger and outrage over the kind of reply which he gave in a late night briefing. And obviously, it also showed a lot of miscoordination between the PMO and the MEA. Why an officer like Shibi George was put in to defend Modi. It was almost like Modi didn't answer the questions, and therefore he sent this envoy who did a much shoddier job and spoiled the entire Norway trip of Prime Minister Modi. So we'll try and discuss this episode. What could be the fallout? Does this look like a clear miscoordination between PMO and the MEA? And now, could the things improve? And this showdown between the Norwegian press and the MEA, could that have been avoided? Could Prime Minister Modi and MEA together would have handled this episode better? All these are questions to ask for. Now, joining me this evening is international affairs expert and columnist, Professor Mohsin Raza Khan. Thank you so much, Mohsin, for joining. And your first thoughts to this episode. An ugly episode playing out before the world. People are commenting left, right, and center, which ultimately results in heaps of insult for India. What do you think has changed today after this Norway trip for Mr. Modi? Does this look like a clear miscoordination between PMO and the MEA?
There's a much bigger question than this miscoordination. I feel that Prime Minister Modi's public image is taking a huge beating in the international media. So, of course, at home, these clips will not be played by most of the media. You know, most of it is Godi media. It's sold to the government and defends and promotes the
media is telling the story that Prime Minister Modi has got the Grand Cross Award from Norway, which is the biggest award.
Yeah, they're going to pay up this, but what is happening internationally? You have to read the international press, the New York Times, Guardian, you know, and even conservative papers like the Times of London. And what's happening is that Prime Minister Modi's image is suffering. You can see that the press, as we saw in Norway, is questioning him and raising questions about press freedom, etc. at home. In Netherlands, they're talking about minority rights. That was also quite shameful that an Indian Prime Minister and an Indian government should be questioned and lectured on minority rights. But they are seeing what's happening to Muslims, to Christians in India. And so they're pointing those things out. And when you give these kind of roundabout answers, the way the MEA spokesman did, it shows that you don't have any precise answer. Because if you did, just imagine if Trump was getting down from that stage with the Norwegian prime minister. If Trump had even seen a glimpse of the media, he would have come himself. And if he was questioned, that is, if he was publicly asked, he would definitely double down and come and try to answer at least a few questions of the press. Sometimes he has stood for, a good 20, 30 minutes talking to the press, even impromptu. In fact, if you remember that our prime minister didn't want to give a press briefing even in the US, and he had to be pressurized by Trump and his team. And because he couldn't wiggle out of it, he just took two questions, out of which also he didn't answer both. He started waffling when the one of the journalists asked a question which he found uncomfortable. He started waffling, and then they started blaming her that she's a Muslim. That's why she's asking these questions, even though she was an American citizen, etc.
Even the Norwegian correspondent Mohsin now is being trolled. They are saying that these are paid tweets, and we know from where it is coming. She's already been trolled big time, and she's been painted as some sort of a vamp on the social media.
Yeah. So the thing is that because of the dominance of this Godi media in India, both in the online space, and they are going to plaster over it. But see, ultimately, the responsibility comes upon the Indian middle class and the Indian upper classes, that they kowtow to this kind of behavior. They support, and even if they don't vote, sometimes they vote, and sometimes if they don't vote, they remain silent. So because it's become so acceptable, unless this changes in the public discourse, unless public opinion changes, we won't see any changes. And coming back to the MEA spokesman's reply, not only is it whataboutery, but it's factually incorrect now after the Bengal election to say that everybody has the right to vote. Because as you know, millions of people have been denied the right to vote, which is a fundamental right. And the Supreme Court's behavior is the most suspicious, because it did not allow these people to vote and said you can vote in the next election once it's done, once your names appear on the list. But this election should not have been held, the Bengal election, because it is the first time that the politicians, the rulers, are choosing the voters. They are choosing their own. It's not the voters choosing the politicians they elect. The politicians are choosing their voters, and the Supreme Court is going. So to say that no, they have been fairly and democratically elected, no, I don't agree. The Bengal election shows that the government is not democratically and freely elected. So even factually, apart from the whataboutery, it's a wrong statement by the MEA spokesman. But what has he got to do? He's got to defend his job. He's got a job. He's got a living. He's going to defend it. So it's wrong to blame him. It's wrong to blame the MEA.
Him, but what would one do if he was in a position and if he has been asked a question like that? And before that, we've already seen that Prime Minister Modi evaded that particular question, and that clip has gone viral. Was he really in a sticky position, and does he now risk losing his job? If not risking losing his job, at least he might be shunted to some nondescript place there.
But why would he be shunted? What has he done wrong? I don't see any mistake on his part. He's being.
Normally the tendency is to make the smaller guy the fall guy.
Maybe, yeah, if they publicly try to put the blame on him. But it won't sell. It won't help them. And they also know in their heart of hearts that man is not to blame. The problem is further up. So the buck stops somewhere else, as they say. So even they know that in their heart of hearts. So I don't think anything bad should come to him or happen to him. It's not his fault. He's just doing his job. He's an employee of the government of India, and it's his job to defend. But the problem is that the way the prime minister is behaving is now being observed in these are liberal societies. They're not anti-India. In fact, they were quite pro-India. Most of these societies.
No, but do you feel that after this particular episode, where MEA-Helly Lyng has asked him a question, made the clip viral, what do you think would be the do's and don'ts? Will Prime Minister stop visiting these liberal countries where the liberal press exists?
Yes, he prefers going to Emirates or Saudi, one of these, authoritarian kingships where He can avoid such questions and doesn't have to give any press statements. He's very uncomfortable in Netherlands, especially when that statements were being made about violation of minority rights in India, etc. So he will. I think you're right. This could be one factor. He could try to avoid this. But I think there's a bigger danger if these clips go viral in India. You see, there comes a time in every leader's life that his image begins to turn in the public perception. It happened to Indira Gandhi, if you remember. It's happened like to very popular leaders.
You believe, Mohsin, that this is going to be some sort of a turning point which people will say that this is Modi's Norway moment? Modi's Norway moment. Is it going to be perceived like this?
Yes. I'm a keen watcher of social media, and I spend a lot of time, unfortunately, on Instagram and Facebook and all of these apps. And I've been noticing that in the last few months, there's a lot of jokes about the Prime Minister. And the BJP is very worried, shutting down all those comedians. But the problem is, it's now started happening with common people. It's not just those comedians, those few comedians who are doing it. Now it's become, earlier, there were just 2 or 3 names you could take. But now I feel that common people are making reels, uploading them with very funny memes about the Prime Minister, everything from his speech about saving gold and this, that, to bigger issues. And there's a saying in our country, he samjo, there's a saying, how do you know that there's a guy is a chaudhary in a village? Is that when that guy says, when you go to a village and he says, I am the chaudhary, the other people sitting on the chopal, they keep quiet, then you know he's the chaudhary. But if he says, I am the chaudhary, and the others start laughing, आपकी खिल्ली उड़ गई. और जब आपकी खिल्ली उड़ जाती है, they know this very well, because this is what they did exactly to Rahul Gandhi by calling him Pappu, Pappu, and making a lot of jokes and all of that. And it kind of eclipsed Rahul Gandhi for a while. So if something like this.
You about Rahul Gandhi, and I would like to show Rahul Gandhi's tweet as well. Shubham, if you're there backstage, can we pull out Rahul Gandhi's tweet as well? Because he has also commented on this particular episode. He's written, when there is nothing to hide, there is nothing to fear. What happens to India's image when the world sees a compromised PM panic and run from a few questions? This is what Rahul Gandhi has written. But the way in which this MEA briefing, the late night MEA briefing was held, and this was a clear fallout to what Helly Lyng had put out the tweet and the clip, and it had gone viral, and it was the effect that late night briefing was called in. But even that late night briefing, it turned like a sordid saga, much sordid than what the original clip shown by Helly Lyng was. Now, what does it go to show about MEA as well? When Prime Minister goes on foreign trips, is MEA not capable of handling situations, especially when it goes to liberal countries like these, where liberal media is there? And will they come out with No, I'm saying that will they come out with a different kind of an SOP now when Prime Minister is traveling to these liberal countries?
What can the MEA do? It can't do much. The behavior of the Prime Minister itself is so unusual that in the context of these countries, you have to behave according to the culture of the country you're visiting. But I don't think the MEA can do much. But you're right, they may come up with new SOPs. They may firmly tell the visiting country that not only will we not have a press conference, but we won't even do a public handshake. Because this is what happened. This was just a public handshake. And the questions started coming. So they may go ahead and say, no, we'll have surreptitious visits, like in the middle of the night, like thieves, we'll steal into their capitals, talk and leave surreptitiously again, outside the gaze of their media completely, not even public handshakes, etc. Which, okay, you can do that, but if you do that, these countries then can't be close to you. All you can have is a surface level transactional relationship.
No, but this has been a problem which has been brewing for so many years. Prime Minister Modi has not taken any questions from the press. One press conference visual which are doing the rounds on the social media is the one where he's sitting next to Amit Shah, and then the reporter asks him a question, and then he says, "Ye hamare party ke adhyaksh hai, aap inse पूछे." So that is the clip which has gone viral. So Prime Minister is not used to taking questions. But what kind of a message does it leave as far as the party as a BJP is concerned, MEA is concerned? Will they just wait and watch as to what Prime Minister is going to do? Because they are all at their wits' ends how to handle the situation. When you have a Prime Minister who says we are a mother of democracy, who says he's a 56 inches Prime Minister, who says that we are the world's largest democracy, but he's not ready to take a single question. Does this situation now put the other ministers also in the dock? If you look at Amit Shah, he does press conferences, he takes questions. Look at Devendra Fadnavis, he takes questions, he does press conferences. Every other BJP minister takes a press conference, they take questions. So does it put the entire situation in a total mayhem? And will everyone now stop doing press conferences? I'm just wondering about that.
I think the Prime Minister is going to have problems. This is my feeling that in the future, the problems are going to increase, both abroad also, when he visits more and more liberal countries, and also at home. You're going to have problems because people of the new generation want a more accountable leader. And this meme fest that is going on, which I've been talking about, will help to bring down his reputation, just the way it did for a while for Rahul Gandhi. It's going to happen to him because, and that's why the government is so worried. It's trying to shut down all kinds of videos, all kinds of memes. And similarly for press conferences also, the public wants, the younger generation wants somebody who's more accountable. So when they see this kind of repeated behavior, it may work well with the older generation, maybe, the older retirees. But India is a young country. The majority of our population is under 30. So they are going to raise these questions. And especially now in the age of social media, when they're seeing other foreign leaders take questions, the Indian public is very closely watching even people like Donald Trump. They're seeing these foreign leaders taking questions, and their own leader doesn't take any questions. Of course, the Godi media never raises this as an issue, so it doesn't come into the public light. But slowly, these common citizens, their memes, these comedians, their jokes are bringing forth this. So I think this is going to create trouble. I think he would be wise to take at least few questions, even if they are curated, but better to take some curated questions than none at all. This
No, I'm wondering because there was lots to talk about his Norway trip. First of all, his award. He could have thanked the Norwegian government. Then there were a lot of deals. The biggest, of course, is the LNG shipment. Now, in times of gas and oil crisis, he could have spoken. He could have thanked Norway that I'm thankful for the deal on the LNG. He could have spoken on that. And he could have very cleverly skirted away the question on human rights. But even then, he did not do that.
Yeah. And so this reveals, at least it conveys the impression of being arrogant, of having disdain.
No, arrogant or he's scared. Arrogant or scared.
Both, but the outsiders don't know his psychology that well. So outside, it will be perceived as arrogant, that he's authoritarian. He doesn't care. At home, we know that the real reason is that he's scared, but that the Indian citizens know. So it'll play differently at home. It'll play differently abroad, I think, slightly.
Doesn't
And,
Prime Minister realize this, Mohsin, that, by clips like these, make him almost a butt of laughter? And then consequently, it also ends up making his officers like Shibi George, who were holding the press briefing for the MEA, they also end up as sitting ducks.
yeah.
They appear as persons without a voice.
In fact, that is increasingly happening. And if you look at some of the memes that are made, they're made about his foreign trips by these common people. That is the way
Yes.
he embraces everybody, laughs unnecessarily when there's no joke, tries to act extra pally, extra friendly, comes across as awkward. So they feel that, this gauche behavior is not appropriate for a prime minister. It's not. And unlike the way he behaves with these foreign leaders, at home he never embraces anybody, never backslaps, or because he doesn't consider anybody in India his equal. Only these foreign leaders are his equal. That is, he has a bloated sense of ego, which people are noticing. They're making fun. So what I feel is that these kind of awkward behaviors abroad are going to play badly at home, and we'll see more of this happening. So I don't know. People say that he's winning elections and BJP is winning elections and no problem. I foresee trouble ahead over the next year, 2 years.
But when you are saying that you foresee troubles ahead for Prime Minister Modi, could there be a situation where probably he'll just stop traveling abroad?
That could happen. He could, though he seems to be addicted, so I doubt he'll do that. But that is one possibility. The other possibility is, as you said, they can change SOPs, but the problem won't be solved because this problem is now entered into the public, what's it called, awareness, in the common sense of the people. And so now you can depend on your core base, whatever, but the core base is usually 20, 25% at best, maybe 30%. And apart from that, if the majority starts feeling see, right now he's more than just a political leader. He's looked
No,
upon
but Mohsin,
reverentially.
I see another phenomena after this Norway moment of Prime Minister Modi, and that is, officers like Shibi George, who are competent. I was just looking at his bio. He's a very seasoned diplomat. He's been posted in Washington, in Tehran, and he's a gold medalist, an IITian. I was just looking at his bio, and that's stupendous. That's terrific. But these officers end up looking like fools just because Prime Minister Modi is not taking questions. Would there be some sort of a churning, an internal churning within these bureaucrats, within maybe the cabinet ministers also? Why should they look like fools just because your own Prime Minister is not ready to speak? Will we see some sort of a change from here on?
No, they will see. They are being paid. If they don't want to act foolish or look like fools because of the Prime Minister, they have to resign. It's their job. It's the job of a bureaucrat to defend the politician. So they don't have any choice, and I don't think there's going to be much churning here. What I foresee is bigger. What I'm telling you is something bigger. That if this kind of behavior continues, and as time goes, you might see the BJP winning elections because of this. But apart from the core vote base that the BJP gets, more and more people will start tapping into these kind of criticisms. And I foresee trouble ahead. Now, how they will fix it, it's difficult in this age of social media. It's difficult to control the narrative as well as you could with just TV. So the younger generation is tiring.
Absolutely. But this entire episode, I think, leaves a very bad taste in everyone's mouth, and especially when we all the time we are talking about the fact that India is the largest democracy. Prime Minister Modi keeps saying in every speech he'll make a mention of how India is a mother of democracy. But when he goes abroad, he doesn't take questions. When he's within the country, he doesn't take questions. He has complete disdain for the reporters who are asking questions. How long will this phenomena continue? I don't know. But this is leaving Modi more and more exposed day by day. And I'm really worried about one thing. And that's a note on which I'm going to end the program. The same question which I asked Mohsin, that what if there is a silent revolution brewing within the bureaucracy and within Modi's own ministers? Just think about it. Why should the bureaucrats look like fools just because Prime Minister is not taking questions? Why should the Chief Minister or any minister of the BJP look like a fool when they all are holding press conferences, when they are all answering questions? Why should they end up as fools just because Prime Minister, their own leader, is not taking questions? So that is a question which everyone needs to answer. And one concluding thought from you on this particular issue, Mohsin, before I end the program. Yes.
Well, they will happily continue to be fools as long as the Prime Minister keeps winning elections, because they are serving at his pleasure. And once you will see contrary results, then you will see rebellions. So you'll have to wait for the elections to turn, which could
Well,
happen
so
soon.
yeah, absolutely. So, well, this was Modi's Norway moment, which everyone is talking about. So, we'll have to wait and watch how things unfold. What changes from here on, as far as MEA and PMO are concerned, we'll have to wait and watch. Thank you so much, Mohsin, for joining on HW News. Thank you.
You're welcome.